What is going on? Welcome to another DTO video. I'm Fintan, better known as Easy with Aces Online, and today we are going to be going over a blind versus blind spot. It is 30 big blinds deep. It is limped by the small blind, raised by the big blind, and of course called by the small blind, because if it was all in, we wouldn't have a spot to run over. It is a very common spot that comes up in game all of the time. Strategies from the small blind, of course, people should be raising off 30 big blinds, but I think the predominant strategy is that people mostly limp and then mostly limp call. So this is going to be something that you'll see in game a lot. It is something that is extremely important. It's a spot where there's some things happen that are just so different to every other part of the game. Like the leading from the small blind is something I want to keep an eye on because I tend to miss it in game, but we got to try and identify boards when you limp call and then just lead into the razor. So that's something I want to try find, and we also got to be wary considering we are the big blind. I'll just show you the ranges before I start talking about this, but in the big blind in this situation, one thing that we are going to need to be very wary of is quite how much garbage we have. So if we look at the ranges, we don't want to raise this section. Any of the suited hands we raise up, we are going to be raise calling, because raise folding suited hands 30 big blinds deep is quite an expensive mistake. The offsuit stuff, we're actually mixing it pretty much all. I will be honest. These ace fours, ace fives, I probably missed these in game. Like I check these because I don't want to raise call them and I don't want to raise fold them, but it makes sense kind of to me. I don't know, because we have so much coverage of the ace high boards that I would check these mostly, but it's good to see that you actually raise them a little bit. Suited hands with the deuces, the threes, and the fours, we are heavily mixing to raise. So this is something that I feel you don't see as much in game. I think most people find this stuff like the absolute garbage. So anyway, we see all this garbage, right? Which means we have to be careful of not just c-betting every single board, because this range, the small blinds range, has been quite cleaned up, right? They have a lot of suited hands, you know, they're not really limp folding many suited hands at all. But then they have a lot of coverage around this section of the board, the Broadway boards. Admittedly, they will fall short on ace high boards. It's not that they don't have any. They have some suited ace x and some offsuit ace x, but they don't have a huge amount. So we are going to be able to drive an advantage on those boards that come ace high. But at the same time, when we raise, we got to be careful that we don't overdo it. So we are going to get into it. We're going to try our best. DTO has a good way of humbling me, but this is a spot that I feel like I have a lot of experience in game, and it plays reasonably similar to how DTO wants to play. So hopefully we can cover ourselves in glory in a DTO video and not get wrecked by the bot. So king 6-4, we have one of the few times we do have an ace here. I don't see the point in betting. I'm not ready to fold yet, but I think it's kind of close. And on the river, I would not be happy. 1 out of 1. We're a champion. So it actually likes bluffing a turn sometimes. I don't have that in my repertoire to turn the ace high into a bluff on this king high board. That makes me want to look at what they're up to on the flop. Do they ever check a king? They do sometimes. Well, admittedly not a huge amount. And they are somewhat capped. But yeah, I wouldn't find that bluff. Just being completely honest, that's not a bluff that I would find. Alright. Queen tray, a very standard hand we want to raise. And on king 7 deuce, I don't think it's coordinated enough that we want to be checking a huge amount. I'm just going to go ahead and bet small. Winner, winner. Is there any checking? Yeah, there is a little bit of checking, right? I would have suspected that we do check sometimes, but I think it's the way people play in game as well. They're not going to defend all the hands that are required. So if we just look here, like what they need to call, they need to do a lot of calling. Like, a lot. Do people find all these calls in game? I'm not sure. Maybe, but it's like they don't do a huge amount of folding, right? So I think people might overfold there a little bit. 10-8 deuce. Can I fold an ace high on 10-8 deuce? This is interesting. So we connect with this board a lot, right? I don't think I'm going to fold just yet, but you do have to consider, like, all of these hands are going to be better to call, right? Even the ones without a pair. I'm going to call because it just feels a little too weak. But I'm not loving it, and I don't think you're going to be making a huge amount of money calling. As you can see, I don't know, where is it? All right, yeah, so it's like it's a 50-50, right? Like we're calling, we're folding. It's just not going to be worth a lot, but at the same time, it felt a little bit too tight to fold, but obviously not a mistake if we did. All right, so ace, king, and deuce. I think eights can benefit a lot from protection here. Our opponent doesn't have a lot of ace x. Now, they do have a decent chunk of king x. If I had on like queens, jacks, tens, I'd be a little bit more inclined to check, but this pair, I think I want to just bet for protection. It does have some checking. I would imagine as we go higher up, the checking increases. So as you can see, fives don't check, sixes barely, sevens a little bit, eights checking, and as you can see, it just goes up. The better our hand, the more we get to check it because the less protection it needs. Is pretty much what that comes down to. But again, eights, I think just simplifying and just betting these like weaker pairs makes it pretty easy to play. Oh, there's a leading board. I'm not ready to fold this yet, but I actually wouldn't be surprised if this is a mistake. But like, I have a good shot, and you're leading into me. Like, I can't fold getting 4-1, but it wouldn't surprise me. Do I want to bluff? The problem I have is that they're just gonna have a lot of hands that want to continue, and then I just have to fire it off. Like, I'm not saying it's wrong to fire it off. All right. 5 in a row. They had the jack 7. Is it? All right. So, I was in a good spot to not be sure. And as you can see here, we actually do fold it 22% of the time, which it's good to like feel somewhat indifferent in these spots where I'm like, this could be a fold, but I'm just not willing to do it. But the turn, as you can see, I like betting this size because we want to start putting their 9x and queen x under pressure. I actually do want to see, because we said we wanted to notice like where does the small blind lead. So as you can see here, DTO bets 2. That's a substantial lead on this board. Like a lot of 10x bluffs, some jack x bluffs, even the 9x are betting, right? And we can start making their 9s like pretty hellish on that turn. Like we can put them in a very tricky spot. But so queen 9-8 is a board that we probably need to like make a mental note of and be prepared to do some leading on, because that's a very substantial lead right there. The queen 9-8 flush draw in particular. So we'll keep an eye on those kind of boards. Queen jack 8's not a million miles away. Like, it would not shock me if this is a lead. I'm going to check, because if it is a lead, it'll be a mixed strategy, and king jack surely is going to be fine. And if I don't want to get it wrong because we're on a little streak. But yeah, we'll check. Is my hand worth betting twice for a large size? Feels right on the cusp. I'm gonna go with this size, but I think this could be also very fine. And honestly, I think king jack's pretty clean for this size. So we made a little mistake somewhere. If the first check in the turn, leading's not a thing on this board. So what was the last one? Queen 9-8 flush draw. Queen jack 8 rainbow is not the same. They look similar, and I'm glad I didn't go for it, because they are not the same. I guess the 9-8 in particular, like the queen jack is going to favor the big blind more than the 9-8. River is fine. Turn, hit the first check. Very, very heavy check. So do we just bet this size? No, we're going this size with the queen x8. No. Or what was the pot on the turn? So we're slightly overbetting a lot of our queen x. Okay, good to know. But we continue. We're 6 in a row. Can we keep this up? 10-9-5. I feel like would be another leading board. But again, I'm not sure, and I know that it's going to be mixed strategy, so we're just going to check. Ah, interesting. I think I'm going to check call. Like, they're going to have a bunch of garbage that we're still ahead of, even if they start wrapping it on this turn. Again, a situation where I'm not 100% what I should do. It's kind of tempting to go for a check shove, but I think I'm just going to go with this. They're so capped that I feel like I could go all in, but I'm going to go with this. Prefers bigger. We just about survived here. Prefers. So my logic for betting this size was that they're a little bit more inclined to like shove over it like with their value. And when we bet this, like that closes the door a little bit, but this is obviously, we're just not getting shoved on a lot here, so we're just cost ourselves money by not betting the bigger size. All right, we survived just about. That was the skin of our teeth. 7 in a row though. 9-5 deuce is the leading board. Okay, sorry, 9-5 tray. That's interesting. I would not have found that in game myself. We are going to just try to show this down. And I don't see the benefit of bluffing here. Like, I think we're going to lose a lot, but I still don't think we should bluff face down. Hit ace 9. Let me see. What are we leading here? This is okay. Okay. Ace 9 in particular is basically the only lead. So I would not be too worried about finding leads on 9-5 tray. Right? That's just not something that we need to concern ourselves with too much. So, all right. Fine. Perfect. This for 10 in a row. No, this is for 9. 9-8 tray. Could possibly mix in a check here. I'm going to bet, but I'll be very upset if this is what cost me my streak, because I do think it's going to have a check. Oh, we just changed our DPI. One sec. I use a 10,000 DPI. Please do not judge me. If you ever had issues, here we go. Not only a poker stream, but if you've ever had issues with your wrist from streaming or just playing poker, whack up your DPI so you barely move your wrist, it'll solve it. I'm heartbroken that this has ruined the streak. Pure check. I knew it was going to be a check, but I didn't think it was going to be like pure, so I went with the bet. I thought the bet would be at least 50%, so it's a mistake. 9-8 tray has a lot of checking, and I mean 8 deuce makes sense to be part of a checking range, right? Because they're gonna have a lot of like queen jacks, jack 10s, 9x, better 8x, and if they start check raising me, we're in a horror spot. It makes a lot of sense to check. Like I said, I'll be heartbroken if this one causes the end of the streak, but so you win some, you lose some. Okay. I'm just gonna bet small on this one. I think I'm going to empty. We unblock a lot of stuff that's going to be folding the turn. We have the good shot. We don't have any backdoor spades in our hand. Or diamonds. It feels very clean to me, so I am going to just empty here. And we are all in. I can't show down 9 high. That's not the game I'm playing. Alright. It does like giving up on the turn. Surprise, surprise, we've gone for the option where we like to blast it off. Wow, they come in with queen deuce. All right, let's try and set one more streak. We were so close to getting to 10. I think it's a board where we could actually check hands like this, but I think with 4-5 in particular and the backdoor spades, it's going to be okay to just bet. Well, one would imagine that there is a lot of checking on this board, yeah. There just is, because it's just such a good board for them, and we have so much garbage, but 5-4 just wants to bet a decent chunk, particularly when we have a spade. But it would have been actually fine to check this as well. But I would pure bet that one in game as well. Can I bet this size? I think I probably can. Okay, so we've strayed and we've got it wrong. A lot of checking. I thought there would be some checking, but I also thought it would be fine to bet bigger with some hands here. So my reason for using 9-10 in particular, and maybe someone watching this video can get in the comments and explain why my logic's wrong, but I would have thought like the duplication of 9-10 with 9s and 10s, which are going to be two of the hands that you want to bet the biggest, would make it an ideal big bet. But apparently not. I mean, we've 10 high. Like, if we make them fold their queen highs or jack highs, it feels pretty good to me. So I think that's a harsh mistake. But is that our first mistake? I think it is. All right, come on. We'll set a streak. We'll go one more streak, and then we'll call it a day. Queen 7 deuce. I am going to find a check this time. If they bet the turn, we would call. And happy to show this down. Does like betting somewhere? Likes betting the flop mostly. Okay. I think it's fine too. They did have a pair. I would have value bet that. So that looks like a leading board to me. Very similar to the Queen 9-8, but obviously slightly different because this player will have more of the good shots to the higher straights and stuff. I'm gonna go for it. We do get away with it. I think checking and calling seems fine. I don't think I want to bluff my hand. Okay. They have King Jack. So we are bluffing our hand. One thing when I've run Sims blind versus blind is I've usually struggled to find situations where you want to bluff pairs. So when I turned a pair, I just thought it was going to be a little bit unlikely that we were going to pull the trigger, but as you can see, we should have. Now, the leading component is not huge, so right to identify the board slightly different. And 10-5-5. I'm going to call king high. This one's very close. This could be a mistake. Should I? No, I'm going to call. I think it's very close. I would imagine quite indifferent once more on the flop here. Yeah. Oh, well, it is indifferent, but it doesn't actually like folding ever. It likes raising. I don't find that. Definitely don't find it enough. All right, let's set one more streak and then we'll call it a day. This is actually a pretty fun spot. I'm gonna bet. All right. Is there some checking? Yeah, I thought there might be. Just gotta be careful. Like, we've got so much garbage in our range. We just have to be careful of overdoing it. But we go again. King, deuce, deuce. Feels good enough to check raise. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I think if we're betting, we should bet this size, but it might actually be a good spot to check. I'm gonna bet and I'm gonna empty. But I wouldn't be surprised, dude. That is not a cool river card. That is not a cool river card at all. I truthfully do not know what to do, but I'm going to check. And I am going to call an all in. This card's not great, is it? I don't have a deuce. Like, look at my small blind range. I don't really have a deuce. We have some deuce, but not a lot. And we would probably go all in with our deuce. So I am gonna call here, just because of the price we're getting, but not sure. Pure call on the river, mixing the raise on the flop. Turn is a check or bet small, but obviously we were never going all in. That wasn't an option. So good to know that we were thereabouts. What did they have? Ace Jack. Don't even run good on DTO. No, I'm kidding. All right, Queen 7-4. I like small bet. I'm just gonna call, and we're not gonna fold. We are gonna bet small, and we're obviously calling all in. Nice. Queen tray. I think this hand is pretty clean. I don't think, there's too much to talk about on that one, but we are up to 4 in a row. Can we have a nice little streak to end this? Thank you very much. Queen, Jack 10. We are not folding. We have a good shot. We have backdoor spades. We could have the best hand. Do I have the bluff ace high? Do I have a worse hand that calls the flop? I mean, I have some 9x, right? But I don't really think I have a worse hand. Huh. I don't really know what to do. I'm gonna go with this. Yeah, that one I wasn't sure about. We do check, okay. It's a kind of similar thing to what I was saying before about how I'm not sure where you're meant to bluff with pairs. But it's just like when I think of my range for calling the flop, we don't have a huge amount of worse hands. I guess we have some king highs. I guess that's true. We do have some king highs, a decent chunk of 9x. Alright. Maybe didn't need to bluff that one, but we don't get the streak. But that is a spot that I very much enjoy playing. I hope you enjoyed watching it. If you have any tips for me, if you want to get in the comments, tell me where I messed up. Tell me what you'd like to see on this YouTube channel. We would love to see a comment. Thank you very much. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button as well. I'll talk to you soon.